Hi folks, today we are going to be talking about just introduction to our unit called Progressivism, kind of just an overview of things. Your objectives or your ICANN statements are that you describe problems in American society that resulted from industrial capitalism, urbanization, and political corruption. You should explain how individuals and groups responded to these problems and the origins of progressivism. So our first objective is that you can describe these problems in American society. And so these problems you should already be familiar with because we just did a whole unit on the Industrial Revolution. And all of these problems come out of the Industrial Revolution. So you have issues such as really bad living conditions and working conditions in the urban city, right? So if I'm talking about city living and city working, those are are really big issues for people. And in addition to that, we have the rise of monopolies during the Industrial Revolution. And so we know that monopolies are negative for the economy because they lower wages, they raise prices, and they create an unstable economy. Lastly is political corruption. During this time period, a lot of the people holding positions in local, state, and federal government are very corrupted. And that's what's kind of shown by this graphic here is we've got this politician and his head is a bag of money because he is being paid off or getting bribes from certain people who want things out of him in the government. And so we'll continue to talk about political corruption. But progressivism is a reaction to all of these negative aspects of the Industrial Revolution. And so the progressive era is really focused on social justice. And it says it right here. And it's about kind of creating a government that is protecting everybody and that is effective. And so the progressives were mostly middle class Americans. We see social workers, teachers, we see progressive politicians, and they're really working in response to these problems created by industry. And so I've got a quote here that you should not write down, but it kind of gets at the meaning of the progressives. Progressives believed that growth and progress could not continue to occur recklessly. The natural laws of the marketplace and the doctrines of laissez-faire and social Darwinism were not sufficient. Remember, laissez-faire is when the government kind of stays out of business and lets corporations do whatever they want. And social Darwinism is that idea of survival of the fittest applied to people. So the first progressives were the populists. And these people came about in the 1890s, and they were a large group of farmers. And the idea behind these people's movement was that this new industrial economy is not helping out farmers and responding to the needs of farmers. So they attempt to make changes to help farmers in the country through government. And so this really came about because farmers were feeling left behind by the rise of urbanization and industrialization. And also, farming became a lot harder because of railroad monopolies and the lack of government regulation. And so you see here, this graphic has a farmer in the middle, and he's the focal point. And on these ribbons, you know, we have a politicians, I plead for all, I rule for all. This is a railroad robber baron, I carry for all. This is a banker, right? I finance you all. This is a physician. I physic you all. This is a business owner. I buy and sell for all. We've got a soldier. I fight for all. A priest. I preach for all, right? And so the idea behind this cartoon, this populist cartoon, is that the farmers are central and in the middle, because without these farmers, these people wouldn't be able to even do their jobs because they wouldn't have any food, right? And so farmers are the lifeblood of America. You need to have farmers before you have anything else. And so you can see they created a platform, which is kind of just what they believe and what they were pressuring politicians to do. And so you can see kind of the things that were important to farmers during this time. They were very anti-monopoly. They wanted the government to regulate railroads. They wanted better working conditions, and they wanted immigration restrictions. But in addition to that, there were some political corruption issues. So they wanted to elect senators directly rather than having a party leader appoint senators. And they wanted a different tax system. So the progressive movement really started because of these people right here, and they're called muckrakers. And these are journalists that uncover abuses and corruptions in society. And so Jacob Riis is the one that you've probably heard of previously, since we've talked about the Industrial Revolution. And Jacob Riis is the muckraker who talked about what it was like to be living in the slums of the cities. And so he really showed us the really negative working or living conditions and also working conditions in those urban factories. Ida B. Tarbell is the muckraker who exposed the abuses of the Standard Oil Company. Remember, Rockefeller's Standard Oil had a huge monopoly on oil production, and Ida Tarbell did a lot of work in making sure that the public knew what was happening there. And then lastly, Lincoln Steffens is the last person that you need to know about. And Lincoln Steffens exposed political corruption in local governments. And so he was a huge factor in bringing about just the creation of the progressive movement. Ida B. Wells is another muckraker that's really important to know about, and she was also writing during this time. And you can see her here, Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in all of its phases. And she was writing about lynching that was happening in the African American community. And lynching is the practice of killing people, murdering people in a mob, in a group setting, because of a crime that they had been accused of. Oftentimes, the people being lynched were African Americans. And so you can see here in this photo, if you analyze this photo, we've got two people hanging from the trees here. It's very sad. But you have all of these people standing there watching it. They're smiling, they're happy. These people are holding hands. It looks like they're on a date. This guy is very proudly pointing. And so she was trying to kind of expose the abuses of African Americans during this time period. And so the progressives focus on three big initiatives. The general idea of progressivism is a movement that focuses on political, social, economic, and environmental reforms through government. And the three big ones are political corruption, ills of urbanization, and industrial capitalism. And what I mean by political corruption are party bosses who take bribes and a government that is not responsive to the people. What I mean by ills of urbanization are those negative aspects of urban living and the rise of industry. And so we've got pollution, we've got really negative working conditions. And then industrial capitalism is the idea of laissez-faire government and the establishment of monopolies. And so progressives are really trying to combat all of these issues through governmental reforms. And so that is it. You should get your prompts stamped when you're finished.